major, author and founder of the Parent-Child Connect, Olaolu Ogunyemi builds resilient leaders for a tech-driven world. Through military leadership and fatherhood, he equips families and mentors with tools that strengthen trust and courage in the next generation. Leaders start at home and impact the world. Help me welcome Olaolu Ogunyemi.
Yay,
All
and I'm
right.
sure I butchered your name, so I apologize.
I was just about to call it out too,
better
Dr.
than
B.
mine. Look.
Yeah, you knew it was coming. I was just about to say, I mean, he made up a new pronunciation, but I promise you, it's not the first one I've ever heard of my name. I would say in the Marine Corps, my drill instructor called me everything that started with O. My favorite was origami. So I think
Oh
we're
gosh,
good.
no.
Wow.
All right, we'll dive straight in. So again, I'm really happy for everybody to be here. I'm going to dive straight in. So if you had the opportunity to see everything that I was trying to offer here, what I'll do is I'll put up this picture, not because I just want to show a picture of myself, but really because it also has a QR code there that you're able to scan. Because what we're doing is a quick overview of the outline. So like I said, I love writing. I'm a guy who uses that as my outlet. I do it first thing in the morning, and I have to do it as a framework, right? So in order for me to be productive with it, I started to try to apply some of the frameworks that I use. So either use the link that's already in the chat, or you can scan the QR code and pull up this quick guide. It's called the Dope Storytelling Quick Guide. We're going to walk through it just real quick as we watch our time. All right, so first of all, I'm going to scroll all the way up to the top of this guide. So here we have this guide, and it's a PDF. If you're able to download it, you'll see it. And what this is just allowing us to use AI as a tool. And that's really the foundation. And we have to set boundaries. As I think Erica was just talking about in her first class. AI is a tool, but you are the architect. And that's really the biggest thing you'll see here. So what we did through this guide, and this is something I usually present in writing workshops when we have much more time, but today we're just going through this so we can set the foundation for all those who want to write. So what you'll see is I've broken up into 4 categories. You're going to have 5 chat windows, but we're going to have four different windows starting off. The first window is called your developmental editor. Now, what that is, we call them code name dev, or whatever you want to call them, nickname, call them dev. So dev, the job for dev is to find the potholes, the logic gaps, understand where your voice is starting to become weak or generic. Try to find some sections, any kind of things that you need. If you've ever worked with a developmental editor, you know what I'm talking about. You need that individual who is taking a look at your writing and telling you what looks good and what flows well and what doesn't. So that's the first chat you'll open. And I'll go to my window in a minute where I've already created these chat windows for this demonstration. The second one is called Scout. Now, this is the marketing strategist. So the marketing strategist is there just to legitimately say, hey, I want you to be able to find what's working in my genre, find what's working for my target audience. It analyzes the recent success stories. It analyzes gaps in the market that your book, article, or even your academic paper, whatever it is, it analyzes all that stuff so you can know how this paper is going to be presented and how well it's going to be received by your target audience. And so again, I'll show you these chat windows in a second. The third is your research assistant. Now, for those who do academics, so I'm actually in school right now, and part of this is I just wrote a research paper, and I use this one very heavily because I was trying to make sure I have my best research. Now, the key here is that when you use this research assistant, aka FACT, you have to make sure that you're going back and verifying the sources, because one thing that we all know about AI is it does something called hallucinations. It makes up stuff all the time, right? So you have to force it to show you its source. I will tell you from my experience, one of the ones that gives the most hallucinations is Gemini by Google, which is surprising because Google has a huge platform, has all these trillions of dollars coming in, and their platform, their AI is the one that gives the most hallucinations. But this is the one I've seen are the ones I use. But anyway, so FACT is the one that you go out and you try to find information. And it also flags anything. So if you're writing even about your personal story, sometimes the data or the things that we remember historically don't necessarily match up what was actually happening. And so you have your fact check, your researcher that helps to clear up those facts to make sure you're telling the truth and you're doing the right thing. And then the last person or the last team member that you'll see is called the project manager, called PM, right? The project manager is the one who's going to help you schedule your day out. And again, I'm going to show you how to use these. In each of these windows, what we'll do, we'll go over to ChatGPT. That's what I'm using for this demonstration. And what you'll see here, ignore the rest of them there, but what you'll see here is I have Dev, who's already written out, and I did exactly what I said. I copied and pasted the the prompt. Same thing for Scout. I copied and pasted the prompt and allowed ChatGPT to spit out some of the things that it's probably going to help with, because I did insert some of the things here. Going to fact. So this is where you go into talking about the research assistant, and you're really setting up this chat window to be your research assistant. And it even told me, hey, I'm ready when you are. So I love that about ChatGPT. Sometimes it's a little too supportive, but this time I think it worked out well. And then lastly, it had the project manager. And this is where I actually told the project manager, and you'll see this prompt a little bit later, I told the project manager how much time I wanted. And I did that intentionally, just again, for the demonstration purposes. So I know I'm going fast, but that's intentional. We'll go clean it up in a little bit later. And of course, you can always reach out to me via my website, and we can talk about this a lot more in detail. So going into the DOPE framework, I talked about this being a goal, a way that we execute our goals. Typically, I talk about dream, offload, plan, execute. Where you dream, you have this abstract idea, then you go and offload where you brain dump it and you plan it. Obviously, you need a plan in place, and then you don't get stuck there, you execute. So that's usually what I talk about with goals. I talk about the DOPE framework, but here we're going to apply that framework to writing. So the first thing is, again, the goal here, transform your abstract idea into high definition vision. And so here's where you want to clarify who's your target audience, what story do you want to tell, or who do you want to tell the story to? Who needs to hear it the most? Because sometimes our target audience may not want to hear our story or need to hear our story, and who will enjoy the story the most. And I think this is important, even for your research papers, your academics, your articles, whatever you're doing, because that audience is still important. You have to have that proper assessment. And so here's where I created the fifth window, and the last window that we create, and it's called the dream window, because I couldn't think of a more creative name. So you copy and paste this, and for the purposes of this, I actually created a story. I was just being silly in this way, and I said, I'm going to write a biography, but I want it to be written as an epic novel. So let's go to this chat, and we're going to dream. I'm going to scroll all the way up, and I'll show you what I did. And I said, I want to write a book, an epic novel about the life of Olaolu Ogunyemi. And then it has the rest of the prompt in there, and all I did was just fill in the blank. And here's where it sort of went through here. And now look at the questions it asked. So it now is breaking down 5 detailed questions as you would be able to walk through. And this is what I did. I took all these questions that I had in chat, and you can do it right now if you would like. I took all these questions that I had, again, to expedite the session. So in a real workshop, I would probably sit down and actually do the chat and work through the questions, give about 30 minutes to 45 minutes to work through these questions just so you have a foundation. But today I went ahead and did it for you. I recommend doing it in Google Docs. And the reason I say that is because once you put it in Google Docs, it allows you to do it everywhere else. Because one thing I'll tell you is I use my phone very heavily to answer these kind of questions and to work through these things. So while I'm driving, paying attention to the road, I promise. I already told you guys I'm in DMV region, and I can swear to you, if you haven't been on a 95, you don't want to be on a 95 not paying attention, because somebody else, I guarantee there's 10 more people that aren't paying attention as well. But anyway, as you go down to 95, you can turn on your transcript, whatever your voice to text technology is, turn it on, and you can work through answering these questions and just clean it up later. And that's what I did. I walked through this in the Google Doc, and over time, a few days, I just put this information in this format. And then I took all this information, I copied it, went back to my dream, and this is all in the guide. We're just walking through it. I went back here, and I pasted the answer to all those questions. And we'll talk about this hook, rock, load format in a minute, but that was part of the prompt. The prompt was to put it into the framework that I have there, and then we'll talk about what that is. But once I pasted all these questions and answers in there, this is what Google provided for me, or excuse me, ChatGPT provided. It provided me the framework, the outline now for writing. And one thing that people know about, anybody remember for writing class, whether it's now or whether you were doing it now or sometime back in high school some years ago, you always wanted to have an outline, because once you have an outline, that's the foundation for your writing. And I think that's really what we're trying to create here. So now we have an outline that we're working through. And now we see that because I answered the questions, ChatGPT didn't write it for me, but it did create the outline from which now I can write more and more. And so that's how we were able to break it down. So now let's go back to our quick start guide. So we see here that as part of that prompt that I was talking about for the dream starter prompt, as you can see right here, I put in this whole chat. I said, after my answer, I want you to map my insights, so my answers to the questions, into the hook, rock, and load structure. So let's talk about hook. So hook is, and again, this is all stuff that I use. It's created for middle schoolers and high schoolers. So forgive me for having some of these elemental acronyms here, but I love it. I'm a
They work
Marine.
for this ADHD brain. Keep going.
That's what I'm
This is
talking about.
great.
I was about to say, I'm a Marine, and they say we eat crayons for a reason, so I just keep it simple. So hook. Hook is a punchy opening line. It's tailored to the audience cravings, and we have more detail a little bit later in the document. Orient. So that's important. A lot of writers, sometimes we get so excited about the hook that we forget to orient people on the problem. We forget to define key terms and introduce the main characters and so on and so forth. We talk about the outcome. Now, everybody knows that in a good novel or good movie, you start off almost with the ending. You know, you see something's happening, you know something's going to happen, but you don't know how it's going to get to the ending. And so I love providing the outcome. And in academic writing, I'll tell you, you have to provide that in your thesis, but I love providing the outcome right up front. And then K, I thought it was hilarious, but keep going. And what I say by keep going is means you're really transitioning the person into your writing. You've built up with you've oriented them, you've already told them the outcome, and now you've put them on this ramp to like keep going into your story. So that's really what it is. And it's like if you're writing a story, for example, it all started when. That's something I love using for middle schoolers, especially when they're talking about their background, or high schoolers, or even college students. It helps them out when I say it all started when, and that helps them take their mind back to some of the stories that they've read, and now they can frame their story the same way. When you go into the body part, this is the rock to make your story rock solid. That's why I use that acronym. Again, I told you, very simple. The first R is for reason. So you're going to just state what's going on. I want you to very clearly articulate the point or what activity that's going on. If you're going to say observe, what do you observe about it? So explain the facts, the evidence, any citations, detailed descriptions of activity. You're really trying to add details because, again, a good story or article has to have good details behind it. Connect. So you have to explain how this even connects to your original part of the story. When I read for some students, even master's level students, some of the things that I see when I'm reading their writing is sometimes they forget to connect their body back to their introduction. And that's really tough for writers and really when you're trying to communicate with your audience, if you're not really connecting it back in some way, especially if you're telling a story. It's good to be able to explain everybody's story that's in there, and it's really cool. But if it's not a main character and they're not really going to help progress your story, then perhaps you don't need to explain it that much. And then again, the K, keep going. It's that transition sentence that keeps them in. And then after you go through your body, the conclusion. This is pretty simple. It's load. The first thing is lure them back in. So sometimes in our stories, they get very excited and they almost, even if you're connecting them for them, sometimes their minds are going elsewhere because they want to figure out how you're going to conclude this thing. So first thing is lure them back in. O, again, overtly state what you're talking about. So reiterate the main steps. Then answer, refer back to the hook. So that way they have a bit of a full circle moment. And this goes well in movies as well. And then determine. Give the reader or audience a call to action, something they want to do or feel. Or if you just want to do something real good, give them a cliffhanger. Even in research papers, I would say giving a cliffhanger, sometimes, number one, it shows that you know that there's additional research. But number two, it shows that you're thinking that there's more out there to explore. So I love cliffhangers. All right. So we'll dive into offload. So offload, again, in my original goal setting, is all about brain dumping, but we've basically done that in the first step. But in this case, this is where we normally would go in and build out our team. Of course, I did that up front just because I wanted to introduce the rest of the team to you before we got into it. Going straight into P is plan. So this is where you build out your skeleton. So now you go into your project management AI chat window. And this is where you talk about, given my goal of finishing whatever your story or topic is, I need you to give me, I said a 12-week execution plan. The reason I said 12 weeks is because, again, for demonstration purposes, I wanted to be able to provide something that had some hard, fast dates. So let's go back here and look at PM. So I posted this in the PM chat. And as you look at it, all it did when it went to the PM chat is it started breaking down what I can do to establish my story. So if you are following along and you're doing this for yourself, this is a perfect opportunity for you to go in and paste this. So now you see what you're supposed to be doing, which a lot of the week one is obviously your vision. It's talking about creating a scope and really providing the structure for your story, and then going on from there. And then we're going now to the next thing. Let's keep going. So first, the next thing is the dream AI. And this is what I love about it, because this is where you start to dive a little bit deeper into your philosophy here or your story. And this is where you go into your dream AI again, and you tell it to act as a journalist. And you look at the structure that you provided earlier in that chat window, and you tell it to help you to provide more details. Again, if you're following along, and this is the one I didn't do before the show because I wanted to be able to copy and paste it to see what it spit out. So if it fails, it fails. That's just part of live demos. And so here I've already got the hook rock load in this chat window. So all I'm going to do is paste this prompt, and I'm going to talk about the story, or let's just talk about a memory, because that's really what I'm talking about. So it's an epic novel story of my life. I'm going to talk about this memory. And now it's going to break down for each part of my hook rock load series. It's now going to ask more questions to prompt me to provide more information. And that's really what AI is doing for you, because it's going back in here. So let's look at this. So I was telling a story in my hook about my son when I witnessed his first seizure, because it's talking about a very heartwarming or heart-wrenching portion of my story that changed the way I perceive things. And it changed the way I interacted with my children and my family in general. And so here's where it goes into that scene. It's really trying to get me to break down what it was like for me to walk in when I was supposed to be, I got off work very early. And as soon as I got to the house, I ended up having to go to the school. And that's when I saw him having his first seizure, because he was unresponsive and so on and so forth. And so now it's getting me to work through this story and be able to tell it in more detail. And again, this is what we're trying to do. We're just trying to use AI, again, as a tool to help us pull more information from the story. All right, so we're going to keep pushing. And that's just a demonstration, again, a quick demonstration. And I want to leave some time on the back end so we can have, if there are any questions or concerns. And then lastly, and this is my favorite part, but this is the part we always get stuck on, it's the execution phase. And whether we're setting goals and trying to achieve goals or we're writing, a lot of times we get stuck in the plan, or we get stuck at the beginning of our execution phase, and then that's it. Well, AI is not going to work for you unless you actually use it to work. And so here's the things that you can do. So when you hit a wall, if you're saying you have writer's block, which a lot of people talk about, that's one of the frequently asked questions for people who talk to me about writing. They say, what do I do when I have writer's block? Well, go back into Dream AI and ask it for more interview questions and continue to answer those questions until you're able to continue to build out your story. And then you go into dev and say, hey, what's missing? That's something I didn't show you much of. Again, this is, if we were going to go deeper into it, we will go in and ask, hey, okay, now I've written out this much of my story or this section. What's missing from my life story? What part would my target audience want to hear more of? Go back to your fact and research some of the things. So when I was talking about, again, let's talk about the seizure that I put into this demo. I could talk about how I was trying to really suppress my emotions. And sometimes there's facts that to back these things and strengthen your writing. And so you just go in and literally tell the AI to look up some of the facts that surround that and why I would want to suppress those feelings, whether it be I'm trying to make myself feel stronger or look stronger or otherwise. So that's the one way you can use facts. And then obviously you're going to continue to check in with your project manager. And here's the critical reminder. When you're executing, you have to do the writing. Let AI ask the questions, identify gaps, and verify facts, but you are the writer. You're the architect. I cannot stand reading people's work that's clearly AI. It really is. Right now, a lot of work is starting to become overused. AI is becoming overused, and we're losing the creativity. That's one of the things that I want to emphasize, and I emphasize this in all the writing workshops that I do, is that AI is causing our skills to atrophy. We have the creativity, we have the ingenuity, but we can't give that over to AI and think they're going to figure it out. It's going to figure it out for us. All right, and here, as you go through the rest of the outline, you'll see that there's a breakdown of more of the hook, rock, and load. It talks about what we'll do. If you're like me, you like to write it out so you can print this out and start writing from yourself. Here's an example that I use for some of the workshops that I'm in. And we'll keep talking about this. And here's a tip that we add to the rock section. Obviously, I don't put this here multiple times, but you can print this page many times as you want. But the idea is that you use rock, again, your body, to build out the actual writing. And then conclusion. So what I want to do, and it's the last thing I'll do to give some time back to you, the last thing I'll do is I'll walk through one of the 7-day action plan, or a 7-day action plan. So if you were to pick up this guide for the first time, the thing I would tell you to do is if you feel stuck or you want to figure out how to use this guide in a practical step, then you just take the 7-day action plan guide. Day one is simple. You follow this thing, set up your team, you run your dream interview, you complete the hook, and so on and so forth. The purpose of this guide is to provide you the ability to work through some of your AI, using AI as a tool for your writing. And here's some of the success metrics that you can have. Again, as a good Marine, you shouldn't have any kind of program or training if you don't have some kind of metrics to track it. And so really, this is what you would have at the end of the 7 days if you were to start using this guide. And again, if you tuned in late, you can download this guide either by going to the website in the chat, or you can scan the QR code that was up earlier. These are key principles. If you didn't hear me say it like 17 other times, you already know, again, you are the architect. Don't let AI do your writing for you. And here are just some key principles that I work through just to let people know. Here's some troubleshooting common issues. Again, these are things that as I receive feedback from other people, these are things that I try to make sure I provide answers to. All right, and that's all I have for today. Again, this was like a fire hose approach, and it was intentional because I wanted to make sure that everybody had time. Again, ask questions if you want to, or if you want to connect with me. And I 100% love doing this with students. I love doing it with adults and groups because it does help a lot to be able to help people bring their ideas to life via writing. That's all I have for now. I'll open the floor up to any questions.
Perfect timing, too.
Oh, that was perfect timing. That's what I'm talking about. Time perfect.
I wanted to ask, would it be possible to drop the link in the chat again? I tend to like to bounce around rooms, so I joined this one late. Also want to tell you Semper Fi.
Semper Fi, brother.
Semper Fi, brother.
Yeah, I just dropped it in the chat again, so everybody has it. Oh, that was perfect timing. My thing had 6 minutes remaining. I don't know what it's counting down from. But yeah, I dropped it in the chat. And what I can do is I can easily, if anybody needs it, I can also send this picture of myself. I'm very proud of this picture because if you didn't know, my jaw is not that chiseled. I think Dr. B, he went ahead and used some AI to make me look a little better. So that's a compliment, I guess, or maybe it's an insult that I don't look good enough for him to, you have to go in and use AI to make me look better. But again, I definitely appreciate that everybody coming over and let me know if you want anything or need anything from me.
Hey, great job. Great presentation. Just a quick question. Obviously, you say your background, you were former military. What prompted the pivot from our last presenter to going to wanting to write and to being a writer?
Yeah, phenomenal question. So I'm still active duty, actually. And that's one of the things that I love about it. One of the things is it started off as an outlet for me. It started off as just me journaling every morning. And then it turned into me wanting to provide some of the things that I was learning about myself to other people, because that's really what it's about. There's things that I realized I was going through that resonated with others just based on my communication with them and conversations. And so I was like, you know what? I want to find a way to share this with me, with others. And it sort of, to be honest with you, it spiraled from there. It just became a thing that I enjoy. And hi, Briley. That's my oldest daughter who's tuning in and keeping me accountable as well. Thank you for that question, though.
Absolutely.
Hey, sir. This is Steve Maynor. It's nice to be in the room with a fellow devil dog.
Right.
The things that you just said confirmed what I'm going through right now. I'm a co-author in an upcoming book here soon, and that lit the fire for me to write my own book. And the tips that you just talked about in regarding, the setup, the framing, and always going back to the central idea is something I have to remind myself of as I start brain dumping everything that I have on mind about what I want to write in these various chapters. So thank you for sharing that, because it absolutely confirms the approach that I'm taking to write my own book.
Yeah, Semper Fi. I get excited when I talk to Marines. Like that bear crawl thing that he was just showing that video. I'm not gonna lie, I was getting too excited. I had to calm myself down. I get excited about PT. But yeah, I appreciate that, because that's one reason I love using AI, is because it sort of catches that thing for you. And what I recommend doing is refining the AI as you go back and forth. Let it know. Don't be a cheer coach, because one of the things about it, as I'm sure everybody knows, is it's super supportive. But I tell my AI, be critical. Don't tell me what I think is the right answer. And I think that'll help with what you're talking about. It's as you're brain dumping and put into the outline, just tell it to be critical of your outline and make sure that it's actually pulling the information that you need. But I definitely appreciate it. Again, I'm always happy to be in a room of multiple Marines. That's what I'm talking about. I think so. The countdown has me at 3 more minutes. So I don't know, Tanisha, if that's true or not, but that's what happened.
I guess, yeah. I guess it gave extra time from the break, the last
Okay.
break. So you're still good. Are there any other questions? This is great. True, and also
Yep.
glad you could join.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, for sure. I started a new run club in my neighborhood this morning. So it's been probably 17 years since I've really been running, like, outside, especially, really since my Marine Corps days. So yeah, I tapped in right on time, right at 9:30 when we finished up. So yeah, good to see you too.
Yeah, one question I was gonna ask real quick. Do you bounce around like I do in using multiple AI chatbots to see same prompt, different results in each? I was showing my wife something similar to that last night, and she was like, "Wow." She was blown away by each chatbot giving a different result. And you could give it a voice, you could tell it to make all of these adjustments, and right on the spot, it gives you that product. Do you do the same, something similar?
Yeah, 100%. I do. The three I use are ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude. What I notice is ChatGPT can help me, does a pretty decent job of fact checking, and it's the one I can use, at least the free version. I can actually use that to do a lot of work. Gemini is more of my day-to-day usage AI. I think it's great for asking your generic questions. Hey, my dog is not feeling well, or something like that, and get some general advice. But I don't typically like using it for research or anything like that requires accuracy. Claude is the one I love using for presentations, creating documents and briefs and things of that nature, because I think it does the best job out of the three that I mentioned of like putting those two things together. But yeah, I'll definitely do. I have done that multiple times in the past, put the same prompt in all three of those just to see what it gives me. And what I found is that Gemini was very supportive, and it creates almost a persona. I'll give an example. I used it this morning, and it used the word yo, not a word I use very often. And I even told it, I was like, I don't know what part of my persona made you say yo as a part of my as a response that I should give somebody, but that's just not right. But the other two are usually more accurate. And I will say Gemini, ChatGPT, and then Claude would probably be the order that I usually do it when I'm trying to do accuracy. That's a great question, though.
Yeah, proximity is another really good one. Found proximity to be the balance between the three that you mentioned. So
okay, I might look that one up. All right, I got about 22 more seconds if anybody has another question. All right. Like I said, I definitely appreciate it. And here's my contact information. Please feel free to reach out either via the website or via the email, parent-child-connect.com, if you can't remember anything else. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you.